Surya, the global school, was established in the year 2012 at Bachupalli near Miapur in Hyderabad city, in a lustrous green campus. The school had a strength of 180 students during the very first year of inception, which escalated to the number of 2000 as on today. It's not only the quantitative development but also about the qualitative approach of the school that has given a scope to extend the wings by establishing a second branch in the vicinity of Aminpur. Surya, the global school, has been incorporated under the umbrella of BDR Educational Society, catering to the students' community by providing a quality education from nursery to grade 12. The school is a firm believer in a structured and systematic way of inculcating the knowledge to the students. The management of Surya believes in implanting great academics and also compassionate towards moral values, striving for the overall development of a child and prepare them to be future ready with practical teachings in something that the school believes in. In this interaction, Suresh Kochatil will be speaking to Lakshmi Dharithri, Principal of Surya, the Global School, a Bachelor of Education, MCom and MBA topped with University of Cambridge International Diploma for teachers and trainers. She also has the exclusive specialization of post-graduation in early childhood education and special education through Usmania University. With this inclination of academic background, Lakshmi Dharithri started her career as a teacher and was a part of many reputed schools handling IB, PYP and IBDP curriculum. She was the head of Cambridge wing of a major international school in Hyderabad. She evolved as a trainer, content writer, freelancer by associating with publications like Oxford, Macmillan and Cambridge. Mrs. Lakshmi Dharithri served as an IGCSE Business Studies faculty and as an exam officer of CIE. She has also worked at Centre for British Teachers as an ECE department head by handling many private government education projects like designing and developing teaching tools for primary, pre-primary, Anganwadi and Balwadi schools.
Welcome to Brainfeed Ed Talks, powered by Tutoroot Technologies, the series of interviews that we are having with educationists from across the country. Today, we are at Surya, the global school. And to speak to us about the school, its philosophy and more is Lakshmi Dharithri, the principal of the school, which has two more branches at Aminpur and a primary branch located next to the premises that we have here at Bachupalli in Hyderabad. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, at the start, let me ask you, how did the school evolve in the first place? When did you start? How has been the growth?
Mr. Suresh, actually, I'm glad that this morning we are interacting and it's a platform given to me to express about the school. Way back in 2012, this school was started by Mr. B. Damodar Rao. It was his brainchild. He is a proprietor as well as a chairman of Surya, the global school. He had a great vision to give back to the society in the form of education. That's where, though he was a core entrepreneur, he ventured into the education field and he had get along with so many academicians. After brainstorming, he had evolved this institute of Surya, the global school, under the umbrella of Ajiro Educational Trust. It's a basically trust-based organization, and along with B. Damodar Rao Garu, we have quite an eminent board members as a board of trustee. And these people are from the various versatile fields, I should say, be it finance, legal, management, administration and academicians, and their stalwart and expert involvement had really shaped up the institute to this level.
Now, when you started the school, there must obviously, as you rightly described, there's a philosophy behind every school. Why do you set it up? Now, as you keep growing, you have one in Aminpur apart from the one in Bachupalli, and then you have next door a primary school. Over the years, as a principal, when you see the school grow, what are the challenges that you saw as the school was developing into a full-fledged institution?
See, basically in the present trends, definitely when you're talking about the expansion of the school, yes, no one definitely when they venture with, they will be thinking about the expansion or this will be coming in this form of a shape. But beginning inception year, we thought we wanted to give best to the students, especially, and especially the parent group. The major stakeholders are students and teachers, undoubtedly. But in the present scenario, parents are the ones who are really influencing the system, and we wanted to come out of that nutshell. So organization should have its own systems in place, not that getting carried away with number of, if we have 2000 parents, we can't run the organization with the perception of 2000 members. So we wanted to run it under the sound principles, and that's the reason we have a clear cut SOPs in place, and everything is systematized. That's how we started. But of course, every organization will be having a teething issues. We evolved, we could overcome, and today we have come up to this shape of 3 branches where with us we are having 122 teachers working with us. And here the major challenge what you're talking about would be a skilled human resource at various levels, various departments, and various domains, I should say. See, organization is not just a infrastructure or just with the machinery. It's men who make a difference. And there I feel there is a skill deficiency where at every level we need to literally pour upon a good enough amount of effort to bring up that skill in the human resource available in the organization, if you are aiming for the better outcome, or rather best outcome.
So you spend a lot of time training your teachers,
Yeah.
training your other faculty members, support staff, everybody to achieve that situation where they deliver the best of classes, best of lectures to the students. Now, do you think in a present scenario where we went through a 2-year pandemic, we saw a total change in the way education is provided? There was more of online teaching, where students were stuck in their homes, teachers were also stuck in the homes, and naturally, when you moved in from an online to an offline mode, there would have been a huge amount of challenge there also in terms of teaching. And definitely technology would have played a major differentiator there. What do you have to say on that?
Undoubtedly, as you said, it had taken a major step. But if you talk about the major challenges post-COVID or the scenario after coming up physical reopening of the school, would be too many major factors, and there are few minor factors as well. And it's a universal phenomena. It's not just our school. Every school or every educational organization is facing more or less the same phenomena. But here, majorly, the board examination aspect, I would like to stress more upon. Firstly, before anything, if we talk about the post-COVID, the word itself is so mesmerizing, where all of us were dreaming beyond our imaginations because of the ambiguity what we were facing from past 2 years, desperately waiting that when we will be coming back to normalcy. And after coming back to normalcy, here from past 2 years, there was a lot of uncertainty happening in regard with the board examinations, because ultimately the schooling ends with the formal authentic assessments of the board, being a CBSE school or any other curricula of international. So in regard with the students and parents, equally parents face lot of problems, lot of hitches in regard with the schedule as well as the pattern of the examinations. There was no consistency. There was no clear-cut clarity how exactly they are supposed to. Hope so that in coming days of this year or henceforth from this academic year, things will fall in place, because last year also there was a lot of ambiguity. That was a major challenge faced by the teachers, school, parents and students. And beyond that, yes, people do think that the logistics or back to school activities in regard with arrangements or other things or receiving students would be a challenging. But my personal perspective is like, more than anything, we were successful to bring back the students and teachers physically back to class. But the challenge is bringing them back to class mentally. Definitely, it's not the overnight task. It will take its due time, but yes, hope so. We will definitely be successful in that as well, because unless and until they're mentally involved, they can't do wonders.
One of the most common complaints about the Indian education system is that we have more of learning by rote. Okay, there is a textbook, you follow the textbook, the students are taught in a certain way, and there are steps for every mathematical problem or an answer to be given. The child is not taught, a child is not encouraged to go outside this boundary. Because any child who does that is considered a troublemaker or a kind of a rebel. In such a scenario, when you see syllabuses like IB, for example, or even IGCSE, there is a lot of thinking involved. Do you think CBSE, of course, they have evolved over the last few years, but do you think there is more to come? CBSE has to do a lot more to ensure that the children start behaving like thinkers, not just like robots.
Absolutely, sir. Rightly said. See, it's not just evolving with the curriculums, but it created a bit of confusion in the parent group as well. Whenever they want to opt a particular school or a which particular curricula they want to go for their ward, there is a consistent confusion existing with the parents as well. But when you compare, I think even CBSE national curriculum, as you said, evolved a lot, and nowhere it is inferior nowadays. And ultimately, immaterial whatever curriculum or whatever syllabus you are using, and gone are the days where you feel that education system is still sticking to the rote learning method, where teachers adhere to the textbook on just deliver whatever is there in the textbook. Now there is a lot of a contemporary approach where the thought process of the educator should evolve, which will be in return reflected with the learners. Undoubtedly, when you talk about the education system, ultimately they are, what I feel is, we are making it quite complex, or rather exaggerating for the learners to have a magnifying view of it. But otherwise, if you put it other way around, it's just different subjects which are helping them to do the best in expressing themselves, either in the written form or a oral form, with a flawless or in a very comfortable zone. That's what the languages do. And the other way around, if you talk about the subject based facts and other things which are taught to them to be comprehended, should be applied in their real life. Definitely, that's where the true essence of the learning comes out. Then again, critical thinking. See, subjects like math or other scientific facts are taught to tune the brain of the child to think critically. That's where they evolve and they apply in their real life, and that's where they come up as a researchers. Why India is lagging behind? Why we are not having a research-based institutes? Why are we just having a product-based?
In fact, our PhDs are least in the world, actually. Our quality of PhDs leaves a lot to be desired, and that's the reason.
Absolutely. So we should go ahead in that path, or mold the teachers or students in that path.
Actually, one of the reasons why children in India actually don't think is also the fact that they don't read. They're not encouraged to read, and nowadays with so much of mobile phone usage, they're always stuck to the phone. Whatever information they get is from the phone. Though gone are those days when we used to write letter writing in schools, we used to have pressy writing, we used to have reading, but nowadays I think the library must be the last place where the child goes to. Actually, and not just schools, even in colleges for that matter. And do you think that habit of reading has been lost? And I don't blame the schools for it. The parents are also equally guilty in this matter. How do you think you should encourage reading in children?
Yeah, actually, as you rightly said, but yeah, I would like to quote one thing over here. Children in India, but children are children wherever you go, universally. That is there. So it all depends how we mold them, immaterial, whether it is in India and abroad. And in regard with reading and writing, especially you were talking about reading as well, it's a skill based. It's not subject based. You know, when you talk about that, it's a skill based. Skill comes out of practice, especially when you expose or give them an experience of enjoying that reading part. And children, they get stuck when they are not fluent in reading, or when they are not confident in reading without any hiccups. That's where they're stuck and they feel it quite boredom. If you create that path where you make it bit seamless, I think they'll enjoy reading. And rather than anything, that is a good peer time what we can give it to the students. And here I would like to emphasize one more thing. You were rightly said that in our schooling days, letter writing and other things, writing skill is different from writing style. And from past 2 years, students were locked at home in the isolation, and thanks to this blended learning, they never had a note taking or note making effects as well. So it was definitely reflecting upon their performance as well. But writing skill didn't deteriorate. It's only writing style which got deteriorated. And again, I say, when they come back to school also, it's not overnight. Eventually, slowly, we will build up that as well. And reading, yes, at primary years, if you train them properly with the phonics and if you give them the ability to enjoy while reading, reading for reading is different, reading for comprehending is different. And if you make them enjoy, obviously, without any deliberate effort, they become quite habituated to read a lot.
In fact, one of the things that we see in a class of say 20, 30 students, which is what a normal class size is today, but in many schools it's more than 60 also, 40, 50, 60. There are brilliant children, then there are average children, and then there are not so good children. For a class teacher, it's impossible to kind of cater to all these three segments. So what you would call a gifted children. How does your school deal with this different parameters of learning?
Yeah. Actually, every child is unique and they are blessed with their own abilities and level of IQ levels, as I say. But yeah, we don't categorize them categorically as a below average or above average, or where even evidently we express or show in the classroom. But by and large, it's a default tendency which occurs as a dynamics of the classroom. And we have a concept called teacher will be doing a lot of a need analysis of the student ability, interest and potential right in the beginning. And depending upon the need analysis, nowadays it is very much into methodology and pedagogy, that different levels of multiple intelligence as per their ability we are supposed to adapt. We adapt a methodology of differentiated learning, especially the gifted students or the high IQ students who are above average in the classroom are one sector. The other slow learners who are there, who needs extra support and extra mentoring, is the other sector. So these gifted children, we will provide the extra mentoring, whatever the class appropriate happens. Beyond that, we try to engage them, because if we go with the normal course and the pace of the classroom, they feel quite monotonous.
Right.
And they may lose the interest because their ability is too high. So we engage them with different levels of worksheets and different levels of complexities. Let me tell you here very clearly, we don't go with the further teaching of the concept. We go with the in-depth teaching of the same concept. That's how they are engaged.
Now, when it comes to teachers, for example, there's always this talk. I mean, my wife was a teacher, so I can tell you this, that, they carry a lot of work home. Their work doesn't end at the school. Unlike many other professions, they carry the work home. There are calls from parents on the mobiles about the children calling them. Now, at some stage, they'll reach a burnout. They say, okay, fine. I've been to a couple of schools where I did similar interviews, and one of the school principals, or rather secretaries, claimed that they banned teachers from carrying answer sheets or books home to correct, so that they finish the work in the school and nothing to be carried home. Now, do you think there is this teacher burnout or teacher fatigue, if you want to call it, setting into institutions? I'm not just talking of your school, but generally across the board.
See, teachers play a vital role in education institute. And this phenomena or a tendency of a burnout will happen when you won't empathize yourself in their shoe. If you put yourself in their shoe, you can well understand the practical problems what they are facing, be it in the classroom, be it in their personal life, be it in their professional life, or getting along with any other aspect of the job role, undoubtedly. And here what I feel is schools should definitely empathize their situation and make their life with ease. And the major factor as a teacher, see, we evolved as an heads from the role of a teacher. The major factor is too much of documentation.
That's
Nowadays, schools insist the teachers to do a lot of documentation for no use. I say because what you write, you should do it in the classroom. Rather than that, putting more in a writing, do more with the students. Engage yourself more with the students. We believe that and we practice that in Surya. Rather than the too much elaborated documentation, enjoy your teaching and spend much time with the students to understand them. And as you said, yes, taking back work home. Here, if you adapt a paperless zone, I think less of work back home, thanks to digitalization. And from past 2 years, the way teachers have evolved tremendously, being quite tech servers. Nowadays, no assessment is done through corrections. Annotations are in place, MS forms in place. So that's how we are. See, it's again a collaborative work, how to we need to have a shift from hard work to smart work, and it's a collaborative approach. And that's where we are open to the teachers. And I proudly announce that at Surya, from past 7 years, the attrition rate is just 2%.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Just 2%. Teachers doesn't leave us, and we don't let go the teachers because they are our asset.
Yeah, I think that's many teachers in many schools get into administrative role also actually. Doing a lot of admin worksheets, for example, can be done by another department and given to the teacher, but that kind of goes above and into the teacher's bucket.
I don't really believe in that, because teacher knows best what to be done in the classroom. Someone else sitting in the R&D department doing on her behalf, he or she may not be knowing her learners. Depending upon the class dynamics, depending upon the need of the topic, depending upon the need of the situation, and where exactly a student needs an improvement or reinforcement, a worksheet has to be prepared, an assessment has to be done. So teacher and my teachers are quite comfortable to take up that, and they love it.
Now, when it happens, and most of us have gone through it, is tuitions. They come to the school, finish the school, go back home by say 3:34, and then they get into tuitions. Now, I don't know whether it's a necessary evil as such, but there is always a gap of the expectations from the parents as to what is taught in the school and what they think their child should have. Now, of course, you have apps like Tutoroot, which actually kind of bridge that gap. But do you think a time has come where, there has to be a technology-based assistance to teachers also to bring in a lot of content from outside, from many such online edtech platforms, and so that they are helped in terms of bridging that gap between what is taught in the classroom and what is actually happening in the modern world out there. Do you think this blended form has to work?
So you're talking a tuition for a student,
yeah.
for a child. See, yes, as you said, tuitions used to be a classic way, I say, way back when a lot of a rote learning method or a methodology was existing. A repetition can happen in the tutoring, but now, gone are the days. Now, even if a child is engaged with the tuition, when the homework pattern, home assignment, or even the classroom tasks are going to be quite innovative, how well a tuition teacher will be justifying the need of the learner, which is a big question mark. And here, when you're talking about the digital platform, undoubtedly it is very useful, because it goes with the age appropriate content of the child first and foremost, and subject wise the specifications will be well defined and determined by the researchers. And yes, but one thing is there, it should be mapped with the classroom teaching. Something is taught in the class, and at home he is doing something else. So as I said again, it's a collaborative work of the teacher, student, and the parent. And the parent at home who is exposing a child to the online platform also should be well equipped or aware of what has to be done. Not just because it has to be done, it should be in place. It has to be done in a sensible fashion where it should be useful for the student.
I think the expectations from the parents are also very high. The moment they pay the fees, they say it's a school's responsibility from here on to develop your child. And quite often I fault the parents for it, that they don't find time to sit with the children and understand what's happening in their school, in their classroom, in a subject. Do you think expectations from the parents, not just you as a principal, but a lot of such principals across schools have told me that parents expect a lot from the institution and they are not willing to take their side of the deal to kind of interact with their own children. They're all busy nowadays. Everybody is busy. So do you think a time has come for parents to also get involved in the development of the child?
Undoubtedly, when you're talking about development of the child and involvement of the parent, see, it's an approach where we aim for holistic education. Holistic education itself speaks a volume, In the school, for 8 hours, we can teach them a subject-based learning or skill-based learning, undoubtedly. There are other aspects, socio-emotional aspects, aesthetic aspects, where a family play a vital role. When family is playing a vital role in incorporating or instilling these values in the children, see, there is a value system. See, family can't be substituted with anything in building up the value system in the children. And that's where the society is deteriorating day by day nowadays. And there, I think only the parents can play a vital role. A teacher can be partly shared with it. If you want to really justify the best outcomes of a whole holistic, cognitive, physical, linguistic can be taken care at the max, physical or other aspects of the domains can be taken care, but strongly I feel socio-emotional aspect and aesthetic aspect will be well trained at family end, and that's where the role of the parent is quite vital and they need to take.
In fact, an adjunct to that same question is also the fact that our children, especially the Indian children, are not taught to face failure.
Oh yeah.
Parents always say that you need to succeed, succeed and succeed. Not just succeed, score 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, be first in the class. But quite often this kind of pressure on children
Undue.
goes wrong, horribly wrong sometimes.
Absolutely.
Do you think as teachers, as parents, as educationists, we all need to bring down and teach the children that to fail is okay. You need to pick up and run again.
Absolutely. See, right from primary years itself, we need to groom their personality. You know, it's a confidence and other attitudes. You were talking about IB curricula. You have different profiles, attitudes, and every methodology is again working upon other aspects of the personality development as well. Why? Because there is a necessity here that those used to be taken care at home front. Now it escalated to the role of the school. That's where I feel a failure has to be taken in a proper fashion, and we should support a student from school end as well as family end to take up such challenges. And more than anything, we do run programs called Apex, theatre arts and other things. You know, child, sometimes if you put up few things in the form of other platforms like dramatics or any other story, where in the story there is a character who is taking up the failure in a very proper way, this will register in their mind and it decodes sometimes when it need base in the real life. You know, such platforms should be created, and it all depends upon the personality. Few students will be having bit of introvert personality, few would be bit sensitive. The emotions will go, the graph is quite ups and downs, but still we need to bring the consistency in their emotional balance, which is again a part of I think default counseling has to happen. A default approach should be there by the teacher, by the parent, by the school, to build up that courage and the personality amongst the students.
In fact, that brings me to the next question, of course, is the penultimate question for you. Is the fact that in India, either you are an IIT, that either you are an engineer or a doctor, or you are a good for nothing character. Now, abroad, you see a lot more different aspects. There is a lot of stress on dramatics, as you mentioned, on music, fashion, biotechnology. There are so many other fields where a child can excel and make themselves a professional. But in India, typically, I think you must be facing the pressure. Do you give IIT coaching? Do you give NEET coaching? And parents push what I call their unrealized dreams onto the children, that they couldn't get into an IIT, so they want a child to get into an IIT. They couldn't get into an IIM, so they want a child to get into an IIM. Do you think children should be encouraged also to say that there are many professions outside what they think, and they can be a successful person in spite of not being an engineer or a doctor?
Rightly said, the pseudo expectations and perceptions of the parents which are imposed upon the students is a high task nowadays, and immaterial. Though there is a good enough generation gap, even the present trend, parents are also acting in the same way. They are starting and ending up with only medicine, NEET, JEE mains, and they speak only that language. And years to years, we are, though counseling, having so many orientation programs for the parents, and we bring the due awareness, but still the mental blockage what they have is there in the society, and I feel that's a big influential behavior which is happening. And you won't believe if I say it won't be an exaggeration if I share with you that pre-primary parent also will be asking about it. Do you have the integrated IIT coaching in your school?
That's it.
Yeah, but you know, what I feel, rather than creating an awareness amongst the parents, nowadays students are aspiring in a better fashion if you do a good counseling sessions or career guidance sessions with them. And you have wide range of career opportunities available right now. For that matter, my own alumni student who was with me 9 years back, she had ventured into a flying club. Okay, she was a student of a flying club, and now she established her own flying club with a license from the civil aviation. That's how they are venturing. And one was a shoe designing, jewelry designing.
That's it. There's
These are so many options available. It all matters how you groom the child. And even the sports and fine arts had definitely taken a
correct
front seat. If a child is really blessed with that sort of a skill, we should encourage, and they can excel more in that, rather than, not that everyone will have only cognitive skills. And the study also says the same thing. Psychomotor and affective skill
correct
domain also should be given equal importance.
Now, as we close this conversation, I want to ask you about the future. Of course, not just future of your school in terms of expansion, but where do you think education will finally end up, say 15 years from now? I'm sure you can't even predict 15 years, say 5 years from now.
There is a great generation gap from batch to batch, what we are seeing right now. In fact, after post-COVID, the pre-primary batch who had come, I was speechless and astonished the way they are performing. Though they were COVID batch where the pre-primary complete 2 years, they did it online, and they have come physically doing a marvelous job. And education, going ahead, if you talk about our own institute, definitely now along with basically, if you look at Surya, the global school, with this quality of infrastructure and the academics, what we deliver, or quality of education, what we give to our students, we keep our fee structure, everything quite affordable for all class. We wanted to bring the quality education even for the middle class. That's the reason in this vicinity we charge very less fee, because we are a trust based. And on the same principle, it's not that we are evolving horizontally, we wanted to evolve and expand vertically as well. Along with multiple branches of schools, we are thinking to come up with a higher education as well, because nowadays higher education in Indian context, you were talking right from the beginning, in Indian context, education had become a class-wise approach, where each society is having its own approach, and the economic affordability of education depends upon various institutes what they are charging for. We wanted to keep it quite affordable for everyone, be it the management studies or technical study or legal or any other professional studies. Eventually we will be evolving in that fashion, undoubtedly. But when you talk about in general aspect throughout the nation, how exactly it has to be, I think we should first and foremost eradicate this confusion amongst the parent group. If you really empathize, they are the victims.
That's true.
And we shouldn't make them suffer that way when they are taking an admission. So please keep the system into a bit simpler way. I think it is a question escalating to HRD department, ministry as well.
That's
At the same time, when you go ahead with the higher education, it's not just again down the line, at least after a decade, we should overcome this scenario of just aspiring for just 2 to 3 professions, because like we have extinct animals, we may be having extinct professions where India would never like to, because even Prime Minister is encouraging a lot of skill education, skill-based, skill India. Why? We should not be deficit of a skill in India, and our culture speaks a lot about it.
we should be job providers, not
Yes, and researchers. They should come up with the discoveries and invention, not just the followers. We should be the initiators.
Thank you very much for the wonderful conversation, Lakshmi ji. And I'm sure that as we go ahead, we will discover new methodologies of teaching, learning, and of course, excelling. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Lakshmi Dharithri, principal of Surya, the global school, speaking about education from different perspectives. Her school, how her students kind of build up their education, their teachers, and of course, the future. Thank you for watching Brain Free Ed Talks, brought to you by Tutoroot Technologies.